Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, or whenever you're watching this video. I have taped this a couple times, so I am in good practice. This is Embrace the Journey update number 4. The agenda for today is the same as the past: tip of the day, then the energy industry update, and lastly, mentor topic. So let's start with the tip of the day. This is really about expectations and team's confidence. So don't let high expectations hurt your team's confidence. So high expectations, Franklin is a place where there are pretty high expectations of team members. But if your standards are too high, you may be doing more damage than good, possibly hurting the self-confidence of those on your team. To temper the negative effects of overly ambitious expectations, try these couple things here. 1, be judicious about when and how often you express dissatisfaction. In situations where people need to improve, push them to stretch. But if people sense that you're constantly discontent, they will be demoralized. So don't always be discontent with their performance, if at all possible. Second, make sure that every person on your team knows what you value about them. If you want them to take your critique to heart, it's imperative that they know what you find special about them and their contributions. What it does is set a solid foundation, that they're not always nervous, that they know that you have a place on the team, your contributions are valued, and then it's easier to bring in and roll in critique, improvement areas, and those kind of things when you have a solid foundation. Number 3, make sure to communicate your expectations ahead of time, which I think goes without saying. It's important up front to have clear expectations of the performance and contributions you have of your team members, and not just bang them on the head after they fail to meet an unclear expectation. And don't forget to be kind of self-compassionate. You'll be more forgiving of others if you kind of loosen your unrealistic expectations on yourself. We hold ourselves many times to high expectations and then demand that of everyone around us, and it can be difficult at times for the team. So be forgiving of yourself, and I think the whole environment can be more productive. All right, let's go to the energy industry update. This was an article a few weeks back. I actually taped this a few weeks back. My June taping of updates was a failure. So here I am on July 2nd, and I do intend to get back to trying to do at least 2 of these a month. So this is a couple weeks old, but you may or may not have read about Michael Bloomberg, the ex-mayor of New York, who is donating $500 million to a new campaign to close every coal-fired power plant in the U.S. And there was a couple things in the article I thought were interesting. In the description of this video, I'll try to put the link to the article so you can read it yourself if you're interested. But this is what he said in the article, his quote: "We're in a race against time with climate change, and yet there is virtually no hope of bold federal action on this issue for at least another 2 years." Funny how that probably, it's kind of after the election, right? Mother Nature is not waiting on our political calendar, and neither can we. So Mr. Bloomberg is taking the bull by the horns here and funding. There's a nonprofit that is making this their mission. A couple other interesting facts in the article I thought I would pass along. More than 280 coal power plants, or about 40% of the coal fleet, have either already closed or have announced plans to close since 2010. And this new campaign aims to shut down the remaining 241 plants that are in our country, and they want to do this by 2030. According to the United States Energy Information Administration. That's a government agency that tracks energy data. 28% of energy demand is made up by natural gas, while about 11% comes from renewable sources. So the natural gas has grown significantly with the reduction of coal, and renewables is up, but still has a long to go, especially when states and others have been putting together legislation and other plans to be 100% clean by 2040, 2045, 2050 are some of the most common dates to be 100% clean. And many times, and I think there's like 7 states that have done that. All right. Maybe that's another good topic for a future update. All right, mentor update. I was looking at my bookshelf of a lot of business books, and there's an author I like, Patrick Lencioni. He was written a bunch of different books and kind of does it in fable stories, so it's easy to read, kind of like a story. The one that I thought was interesting, or I picked up for today's update, is Death by Meeting. And I had a takeaway, and I set up a lot of different meetings according to this structure early on. And again, this is probably 5-6 years ago. And it really broke down the types of meetings you have with a very specific kind of objective for each one of these meetings. A good way to kind of organize this if you're in charge of a project team, a program, a region, or really the whole company. The first one is kind of this daily check-in, kind of almost a standing meeting, just what's on tap, what's the schedule for today, those kind of quick things, 5 minutes long. Then there's a weekly tactical meeting where you review activities, metrics, and resolve tactical issues. This is 45 minutes to an hour, maybe 90 minutes if there's a lot of tactical stuff to go through. And then the third level in this kind of pyramid is a monthly strategic. So sit down for 2 to 4 hours on a monthly basis to really discuss, analyze, brainstorm, and decide upon some of the critical issues that are affecting, a little more longer term success, pulling the head up, out of the ground, I guess, and looking beyond just the tactical stuff that we all just, our to-do list on a daily basis. And then the last meeting was kind of a quarterly offsite, somewhere where you can spend a day or two, get offsite and really review the strategy, look at competitors, industry trends, key personnel, team development, those types of things. And that is what his book, Death by Meeting, and it was a really interesting book. It's a quick read, kind of talks about how to really have more clear objectives and kind of a layering almost of the types of meetings you have and what you're trying to accomplish and how they all kind of work together. So that is it for this update. And until next time, have a great day and happy Independence Day. And if you're watching this after Independence Day, hope the fireworks were awesome. See ya.